Hello everyone, my name's Abigail Sickler of Hidden Creek Farm, and we just hit our 6-year anniversary of owning this farm, naming this farm, establishing the business, getting started with bare roots. And I thought it would be really fun to break everything down for you, take you along this journey that we've been on for the last 6 years, answer all the questions that we've been asked so many times over the years, and just give you a broader view of what it looks like here on the farm and how we got here, some things we've been through, and we've flies already, and we are here to tell the tale.
So let's start where it all began. And that was 6 years ago. My husband and I had just gotten married, literally like 2 weeks before we made settlement on the farm. I was expecting our first child, and it was just a whirlwind. Our lives were so chaotic at that time. I look back and I'm like, who were those kids? What were they doing? They had no clue. And it was just, it seems like a lifetime ago, to be 100% honest. I'm not even sure that I know who those people are anymore, but that's where it all started. And we are not Nepo babies. We purchased the farm off of my parents, but we didn't purchase a business. So I think that's a huge misconception in the farming space, in the agricultural community, or people's perception of it is that these farms just get passed down like generation to generation. And while that does happen, I'm not saying that it doesn't. That was not the case when it came to us purchasing this farm. So we simply got the opportunity to buy the land off of my parents, which that's a start, right? I don't take that for granted, and I don't take that lightly. A lot of people don't get that opportunity. So that was our first kind of step, right? Was buying the farm itself. But it wasn't an established business. They had their own business. We had to make ours. One of the most common questions that we get asked is, where did the name Hidden Creek come from? Where's the creek? And my response is always, it's hidden. And while I wish that I could say that I was the creative genius behind that name, I was not, and neither was Jesse. The best man from our wedding, who is still our best friend to this day, is the one who named our farm. We were trying to come up with something creative. We knew that we did not want our name in it, and we did not want something like super generic, and we were just bouncing around ideas. I don't even remember what the other ideas were at this point, but we were bouncing around ideas one night over some beers and pizza, and he was like, what about Hidden Creek? Because we would take the dogs to go swimming in our Hidden Creek. And where we live is called Stowe Creek. We're hidden off the road. He had a whole logic behind it, and we both liked it, and we looked at each other and we were like, Hidden Creek. It's got a nice ring to it. And it's been our name ever since. I think that week is when we did the LLC filing and it became official. We got our logo. Everything happened so quickly when we bought the farm. So shout out to Joshua Crammy, because he is the brains behind the name Hidden Creek. So when we first bought the farm, there was a house on it that was my great-grandparents, who I never even got the chance to meet. But there was a house on the farm. It was completely disheveled. It was not necessarily a savable house. As much as I really tried to talk Jesse into it, he was like, absolutely not. The foundation was crumbling. It was in really bad shape. So the first thing that we did when we bought the farm was take down the old farmhouse, and that meant that we had no house. So what we did was we converted an old horse hay storage barn. So they did have horses in there at one time. Then it just kind of became storage over the years. We took that space and we used it as the blueprint of our house. And we kind of did the whole barn dominium thing before barn dominiums were cool, mostly out of necessity. So we took a mortgage out on the actual farm itself, but when it came to a house, the mortgage company was kind of like, hey, we just gave you a big loan. We just gave you a big giant loan for the mortgage of your farm. We're not giving you another one for your house. So we had to get creative, and that is how we ended up retrofitting the barn into what is now today our house. We get questions about the house more than almost anything on this farm. People want to know everything about it. They want to know if we like it, if we do it again, if there's things that we would do differently. And yeah, there's so much that we would do differently. I think anyone who has built a house will tell you, like, I would build a second one completely different, just because you don't know what you don't know. And we were also on a time crunch. So from start to finish, my husband, his uncle, and some people that were helping him had this house done in 3 months flat. From start to finish, it was done in 3 months, which is pretty impressive, but it also just didn't give us time to really think about what we were doing, the choices we were making. Just for instance, like the layout of our house is so dumb. We should have done like bedrooms on each side and had the center as kind of like the main point. The open floor plan always seems great in theory, but now that I'm living in it, I'm like, I don't know why anyone ever thought an open floor plan was a great idea. The fact that I can hear my children, no matter what part of my house I'm in, just puts me into instant overstimulated mom mode. But yeah, there's tons of things that we would do differently. We would have an attic, for instance, but the trusses that were already on the building, there was nothing wrong with it. So we let them be, and it is what it is. I do think that as time goes by and as we start making minor changes, this year we did a lot of landscaping. We're also putting in an interior wall between our kitchen and our living room with like a hallway blocking off the bedrooms. Because it's so open, we have a lot of different things that we can do to make it a little bit more homey, a little less insane asylum white box-ish. But yeah, barn dominium was kind of where it got started. We moved into our house 2 weeks before I had our oldest son, Mitchell. So from the time that we started to build the house, the time we moved in, and then I had him 2 weeks later, it was absolutely utter chaos in the nicest way possible. I don't think our lives could have been crazier. I was still working for corporate America. Jesse was working for his dad, but also going through like a ton of life changes. Moving down here was a huge one for him. And then also he was starting his own business because he had bought the Peterbilt and dump trailer at that time as well. So it was just a lot of things. There was just a lot of things happening during this time period. So when we first moved down here in October, we just kind of took the winter to regroup, think about what we wanted, figure out what this farm was really going to look like. And we didn't even hit December yet, and Jesse was already just going so stir crazy. He was used to working 90 hours a week, like minimum, and going from that to just having a lot of time on your hands was not healthy for him at all. And we quickly realized that he was going to need something to occupy his time. And throughout that winter, he spent a lot of his time watching YouTube, ironically. And he had stumbled across Joel Salatin, who I was familiar with just from college and from doing a few different lesson studies on him and his farm of Polyface. So I was somewhat familiar. But that winter, we kind of just like dove into watching all of the content that was available on YouTube from Polyface Farm. Basically what happened was he was seeing the way that he was raising chickens and thought, well, that would be a low input, something that we could start doing here. It would be low input, low cost, and maybe we should try it. And I'm not gonna lie, I had some pushback. I wanted to immediately just bring beef cattle onto this farm. But the issue is that we didn't have any infrastructure whatsoever. So there was no animals here previously. We had no fence line. We had no indoor storage for our animals. So we had this old building that was a chicken house many, many moons ago, but it hadn't served a purpose for livestock in a really, really long time, and certainly had never seen cows or pigs. So it was going to need a lot of work in order to make something like that happen. But the fence line was the biggest piece to all of this, because this was right before COVID and prices were, if we had known now what prices were going to look like today, we probably should have taken advantage of it back then. But when you're paying $14 a post for fence posts, it's not the cheapest, most affordable thing in the world to fence in your entire property for cows when you just built a house with cash. So basically, the more videos that we watched, the more that we learned about poultry, the more that he was kind of talking me into it. And he just so happened to be having a conversation in front of a friend about maybe wanting to start to raise meat chickens. And the friend said to him, well, you really need to talk to my dad. And we didn't realize that his dad had a poultry business at one point in time. He was kind of stepping away from it, but he had all of the equipment and he certainly had a lot of knowledge. So we did. We went and we talked to him and we kind of picked his brain. And he said, if this is something that you guys want to do, I'll help you get started. And that's what every farmer needs, is somebody to say, I believe in you and I'll help you get started. That conversation changed the entire trajectory of what is now Hidden Creek Farm. And without him, we would not be where we are. We would not be where we are today. And we may have given up, to be honest, on the poultry end of things. But over the years, we've learned to pivot. We've taken things that he's taught us and we've tweaked it to fit our own operation. And I'm just so thankful for that, because without the extra income from the chickens, it was the first year, we wouldn't have been able to add pigs, which then allowed us to add cattle to our operation, which is a huge piece of it today. When we first got started, we didn't really know what it was going to look like. Everything was pre-order. So people would pre-order either whole birds or birds that were split in half, and we would butcher them ourselves here on the farm. And then that same day we would package them, and that day and the next day we would have pickups starting at like 5 p.m. and then all day the next day, where the people that had pre-ordered would come and pick them up. And that worked for the first year. We were slinging chicken out of the garage, but we quickly realized that there was really no amount of chicken that we could raise that was going to meet our quota, was going to meet our demand. It seemed like no matter how much we raised, it just wasn't enough. By the end of that first season of butchering our own chickens, I was also due with our second child. So I was 9 months pregnant. I was miserable. I was fat. I was swollen. My blood pressure was high. And we were out there butchering chickens. And that was kind of the point where we realized, like, we can't rely on people wanting to come help us butcher chickens every 6 weeks. And also, we don't have enough capacity personally to keep this going. So that was when we started looking into a USDA butcher to do it for us. And my, oh my, did that literally change everything. By switching over to the USDA butcher, it allowed us to expand our numbers very quickly because we no longer had to worry about the processing end of it. We knew that no matter how many birds we took them, that they were going to be able to handle it for us. And it also let us step into an entirely different market because before we were only offering half birds and whole birds. But with going to a USDA butcher, we were then able to start parceling out the meat, which we just did not have the capacity to do ourselves. So we were able to start offering boneless breasts. We were able to start offering thighs, wings, drums, leg quarters. They had marinated. We were able to start working with our poultry butcher as well as our pork and beef butcher and bring things in like ground chicken, ground turkey. We would have it slaughtered and processed at one facility. We would transport it to the other. They would grind it and package it for us. It completely changed the entire dynamic of our business and what it is today. That first year raising chickens, we raised between 500 and 600 birds, and we thought we were doing something. We thought we were lighting this world on fire, never realizing how quickly we were going to expand that number very quickly over the next 5 years. And the poultry end of things is really what fueled the entire rest of our business because it's what was bringing people in the door. It was what was setting us apart from some other operations that you could buy meat from locally. And it just kind of became our thing. It was what we are known for. It's our best selling piece of meat. And we are just incredibly grateful for the journey over the last 6 years of raising poultry, and what it looks like then versus what it looks like now is truly just so incredible. While slinging meat out of the garage was certainly not a bad thing, we very quickly realized that it was not going to be sustainable because, for one, we were running out of space where our numbers were expanding so quickly that we just knew we needed a retail space. So we kind of fell into direct marketing just because of the poultry end of things, knowing that we wanted to continue to grow and scale that, but again, also bringing in pork and beef, we could easily fill a store. So we actually started off with a different storefront than what we are in now. It was off the farm, almost 2 miles up the road. It sounded really good on paper. It ended up being a huge learning lesson. It was a mess from the get-go. We had issues with the municipality. We had just a never-ending attorney fee is basically what it ended up being. It was a mess. It was so disheartening and it was really, really hard, but it has shaped us into like the steadfast rock as a couple that we are now, because it truly tested every piece of our marriage and of trying to be parents, run a business, deal with the legal end of things while also like still putting on a brave, happy face to all of our customers. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. It was very dark, very dark time. I was postpartum. I was so hormonal, dealing with all of this nonsense, because that is truly what it was. Everyone, I encourage you to know your state's right to farm laws. Be very versed in them, know them like the back of your hand. We did, and thank God, because if I were someone who didn't know the laws, didn't know my rights, and just backed down, we would not be where we are today. So I cannot encourage you enough to become familiar with your state's right to farm laws, with your local laws. Get in touch with your FSA office, get in touch with your local ag boards, figure out what you're allowed to do, and hold your head up and just keep going. That is my best words of advice. And If you get pushback, it's gonna be hard, but you're going to get through it if you just know that what you're doing is okay. And for us, it went all the way to court, through the local ag boards, both Salem County and Cumberland County, New Jersey. It got to the point where it was to the state level. Farm Bureau was involved. It was a nightmare. It was every young business owner's worst nightmare. But we made it through it, and we never wavered from what we were doing. And as I said before, it truly did shape us into the business owners, the couple, the parents, the farmers that we are today. So when that all went down, it cost us a ton of money, a bigger number than I would ever care to admit. We'd have a lot more cows in our tank had we not gone through that, but we did, and it was a learning lesson. But basically, we were like running ragged, paying our bills, and it was one of those situations where our lease was up on the building, and we said, we don't want any part of this building anymore. I swear it had bad juju. Everyone that has ever had a business there or worked there or experienced anything like very firsthand there agreed with me. Like, the building had a weird energy, bad juju. If you believe in that kind of stuff, you know what I'm talking about. There was just something off from the very beginning. So basically 2 months before our lease was up, Jesse and I looked at each other and we said, we are jumping ship. We are getting out of here, hell or high water. And that's exactly what we did. He called his uncle and he said, yo, we have a building that we need to move our store home into, and it needs a lot of work. And I will say, God bless that man. He basically dropped everything, came down here, helped Jesse get this building ready, and I think they had it done in a month. It was very impressive. Not as impressive as the house, but definitely still so impressive. We had closed on a Sunday up at the other store. We had everything moved and set back up by 6 p.m. that night. Like, it happened so quickly. The building that we moved into is now what you guys all know as our customers as our farm store. So we have been here since then. Our farm store basically looks the same as it did when we first moved on that Sunday, except for there's more product in there these days. The farm, however, looks very different over those years. We ended up putting up permanent fencing around the entire property. Had put in several hog pens in our woods. So we ran water line out to the woods and basically have just set up different paddocks all throughout our, what do we have? 22 acres of woods here that we are able to raise pigs in. We took that old chicken house that I was talking about earlier that used to have 30,000 laying hens in it, and we converted that into a cow barn, into steer pens. So currently we've got 2 pens up in the barn, and we're getting ready to add another. By the time it's all said and done, I have a feeling that most of that building is going to be used for cattle, especially in the winter time. But we're just chipping away at it one piece at a time and making small improvements every single year to just keep building on what we have. I often have to remind myself that we are only 6 years into this farm and really only 5 years into the business itself. So I have to reel myself in and give myself that reminder, put my actual blinders on from other businesses that are maybe more established, were handed down, from a generation to the next, or there's some sort of generational wealth there, or there's a lot of different moving parts, right? I am 30 years old. My husband is 33, and for what we've built in the last 6 years, I think that it's something just to be proud of. Always to strive to want more and be more, but also to be proud of what we have built and how far we've come. In the 5 years that we've truly been building the business, I would say 2 of the biggest changes were me becoming a full-time permanent member employee of this farm, of quitting my corporate job, and then of course having 4 children while trying to build this business. Not easy, folks, not an easy thing to do. Not sure that I recommend it, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Throughout the years of becoming business owners, of building up this farm, we have, of course, had bumps in the road. We've had roadblocks altogether. We've had milestones that, of course, we can be so proud of. We've had life changes. We've just had circumstances change. And we get asked a lot, what is the hardest thing that you have overcome since starting this? And I think, to me, the hardest challenge that we have faced is who you think is going to support you is probably not. And I say that to say, basically, I think when we started this, I had it in my head that it was like all of our customers were going to be people we knew. They were going to be our friends. They were going to be people we grew up with. They were going to be family. They were going to be, this community that we already had around us. And that was not the case. It may have been that way when we first started, of people just feeling like maybe they had to come support us because we had just opened. But getting past that and realizing that there's such a broader community out there, and that the people that you think are going to support you, the people that you might want to be the ones supporting you, are not necessarily going to be the ones that are. Being a small business owner opens your eyes to the fact that a lot of people don't want to see you win. And I think it's hard for people to see someone else's success, or at least what they're viewing as some sort of one-up on them. And I don't feel that way whatsoever. I don't think we're doing anything better than anybody. I mean, good Lord, some months I'm struggling to pay our bills, but I think there's just this perception that comes with being a small business owner. If that means you're making money, or that means you have freedom to do what you want, or that means, I don't know. I don't know what people think it means, but I can tell you it's probably not what it actually is. I think being a small business owner takes so much discipline, and it takes so much work behind the scenes that people are not even comprehending if they're not living it themselves. They are not seeing the hours that you're staying up on your computer, playing with marketing techniques and sending out emails and planning next year's livestock, because you have to plan an entire year in advance, your schedules, dealing with things like avian influenza and what that means and what the impacts are going to be on your business, doing the social media end of things, which is such a time-consuming piece of this business, but also so necessary, and choosing what you want to put out there from your life, right? I get pushback all the time, like, oh, you walk around with your phone all day, or you share everything, you have no boundaries. And all I ever say to those people, right, is like, you don't know me as well as you think you do, because I might share 15 to 20% of my actual life. I don't share everything. I pick and choose. I definitely hold certain topics very close to my heart. Although they would probably make some really good entertainment for you all, they're just not things that I necessarily want to put out there. So yeah, I mean, it's like you're gonna get pushback no matter what, right? When you put yourself out there, as a public figure, a public face on the internet, because that is what having a business in today's world requires. You're going to get pushback. Of course you are. There's going to be people that don't like you. There's going to be people that think they know something about your business that they don't. There's going to be people that make up blatant lies or just spread this narrative that's not even true because, you're on the internet and they can. You have to be okay with opening yourself up for that kind of criticism, for basically like tolerating people having an opinion about you. And it's not just an opinion about you personally, it's an opinion about how you farm. It's an opinion about how you raise your kids. It's an opinion about your marriage. It's an opinion about what your farm store looks like and what you offer in it. It's an opinion about your animals. It's an opinion about your practices. I could go on and on and on and on. There's so many opinions, but you have to grow into the kind of business owner that says, I am comfortable in what I am doing. I know what I am doing. I know that I'm being transparent with my choices to my customers. And if somebody over here wants to say otherwise, you have to learn to just be okay with that person saying whatever they want to say. And that has been a really challenging piece of this business, because I have always been a chihuahua, right? Like I've always been yep, right back at you. I will come for your jugular if you say something, or at least I used to. Years of therapy have helped with that. I am much calmer now than I used to be, but becoming okay with just letting people create their own narrative and their own storyline, as long as you're steadfast in yours. Over the years, we have adapted quite a bit, obviously, pivoted and changed our business to be able to survive, right? The choices that we've made have been out of survival instincts, and that is 100% true. Survival mode, those first 5 years, fully. Now we're in a little bit more of a not comfortable position, but I will say it gets easier every single year. We've become so grounded and rooted in our why, in our mission, and what we want this farm to look like one day, that it's getting easier. Slowly but surely, it is getting easier. And I think when you stay true to yourself and you just keep chugging along, as my grandpa would say, keep your head down and just keep swinging. And that is 1000% true. If you just keep your head down, stay laser focused on your own business, what you're personally doing, not what a farmer up the road is doing, not what somebody in Indiana is doing, what you are personally doing, that mission that you are personally after, keep your head down, keep swinging. It's gonna come. The pieces are going to fall into place. It's just that repetition. It's reps, right? It's just like going to the gym. It's putting in the work, putting in those reps. You just keep going. You just keep pushing forward. You just keep lifting heavier. And slowly but surely you gain that strength. You gain that confidence in your business and in your entire life. Some hard lessons learned. Don't overpromise during peak season. And by that, I mean, don't oversell yourself. I, over the years, have had to learn that I need a break. I am only one person. I need to be able to say no to things, and that's not always easy as somebody who is trying to build a business and hungry to build that business, but it's necessary. Postpartum for me with every single kid has looked really different, and I've had 2 in October, 1 in May, and 1 in August, and that journey has looked different depending on the time of year that I had them. I will say there's no good time to have a baby when you have a farm. I used to think winter babies would be easier. I don't think that it actually matters at all. I think just having systems in place and preparing for what is to come for that season is what is going to help you the most. But what I will also say is give yourself some grace. I did not do this with my first 3 children. I gave myself no grace whatsoever. I was back at it immediately. It was like really rough on my mental health. With baby number 4, I put up a lot of boundaries in our business. I took a maternity leave. I didn't do our education program that summer. I gave myself time to heal and time to bond with my baby. But then I also just gave myself some space to step back a little bit. And I think it benefited me because I had more time to actually have ideas and to be creative. And I wasn't giving myself the space to do that before. So I had him in May. And then in September, my best friend passed away. And for me, that is when everything in my life and in my business changed. And at first, I think it certainly wasn't for the better. But in the long run, I think that going through something like that forced me to establish boundaries in my business, in my relationships, in every dynamic around me out of basic need for survival. And I didn't have an emphasis on it before, and I didn't realize how important it was. And now, 9 months later, I can step back and look at it from a bird's eye view, and I can see where that switch happened, and I can see what it did for our business. I can see what it did for my family. I can see what it did for my relationship with my husband, for the way that I have patience for my kids, just the way that I look at the world so differently. And of course, I never would have wanted this. I never wanted to go through something like this. I don't wish it upon anyone, and it's still very, very difficult for me to talk about. But I think when bad things happen to you, you have a choice to make, and that's either you take it and you let it destroy you, which I did for a few months, and you let it tear apart every piece of your life, or you take it and you change every piece of your life for the better. And sometimes we just need to slow down and to have that perspective shift. And it's not easy. I started really focusing on my health, my mental health and my physical health, which I think kind of just go hand in hand. I started really focusing on the time that I spend with my kids. I started having set business hours for myself that I am working with a very detailed schedule of what I'm doing each day. I started writing things down, journaling, I guess you could call it, and that has been transformative in a lot of different ways. You have a choice. When bad things happen to you, you have a choice. You can let it define you for the positive, or you can let it completely destroy your life. And I think that's a piece that a lot of people are missing. When it comes to an operation like ours, one thing that you need without a doubt is organization and logistics, scheduling, knowing what your day-to-day is going to look like. And yes, it is going to change 10 times, but at least having a rough outline of what that's going to look like, and truly like penciling in absolutely everything of your life. I put my workouts into my calendar because that way they're non-negotiable. I know that they're happening. I know that they're in there. I put everything. I put lunch dates in with my husband if we're able to do it. I try to keep track of everything. I try to keep everything on a schedule because that is the way that I mentally can handle all the different moving pieces to this farm. Take the winter months and I really use that time to plan ahead because that is when we do all of our scheduling for our butcher dates. It's when I do all of our ordering for our poultry throughout the entire year. It's when I get in touch with the hatcheries to find out if there's any expected problems. There is a lot that goes on behind the scenes during those slower times here on the farm. One thing that I need to get better at, and I've made it a goal for 2025, is batch content. The days that I'm feeling good and the days that I'm feeling inspired and creative, getting out there with my camera, with my phone, with whatever I need to batch content and just have it in my arsenal for those days when I'm just not feeling it. If you are interested in starting a business of your own, but you're afraid of what people are going to think, my two options for you are either one, get over it, or two, don't even bother. Because if you are gonna let that stop you, honey, this business is not for you. When you become a small business owner, you're opening yourself up for people to have a whole lot of opinions. So get comfortable in the uncomfortable. I get asked all the time, how do you get past that cringe factor? I don't know, I'm comfortable. I don't find myself cringe. Of course I find myself cringe sometimes, like let's be realistic here. But for the most part, I'm very comfortable behind the camera of the things that come out of my mouth. Listen, I am who I am, okay? Sometimes I feel like I was made for this, right? I don't know, it doesn't bother me. But if you're gonna let other people's opinions dictate what you do or say on the internet because you're worried they're gonna like send it around to your high school friends group chat making fun of you, this business ain't for you. Just don't even bother. I try to look at it as thank you for helping out my algorithm. Thank you for sending that to that girl that was mean to me in high school so that you guys could make fun of me. Like, that's great for my algorithm. I don't mind one bit. And going back to the question about community support and what that looks like or how you get past the fact that people who you thought should be supporting you aren't. What I will tell you is your community is what you make it. And we have built such a strong community around us with people who I never would have expected to support us. We have people, perfect strangers, that are driving from hours away to come down here and support us. We have local community members who I've never met a day in my life, but they're in our store, or I had never met them a day in our life before the store, that are in here every single week spending their hard-earned dollars because they believe in what we're doing. And I appreciate that more than anyone could possibly realize. So yeah, if you want a community, build one. If you want strong people around you, surround yourself with strong people. Knowing that my kids have the opportunity to grow up in the way that they are currently just brings me so much joy and gives me so much drive and purpose to keep doing what I'm doing every single day. It is the motivation, it is the kick in the behind that I personally need to just keep moving forward, to keep my blinders on, to keep my head down, and to just keep pushing because my kids are watching and they're depending on me and they don't realize it yet. They don't understand how hard mommy and daddy work to make this all happen and so that they have the house and they have the cows and they have the lifestyle that they do. But one day they're going to. And I strongly believe that if we continue raising them the way that we are currently, that they're going to be very strong as adults. They're going to be very confident as adults. They're going to have a wide skill set. They are going to be so resilient. They're going to be so resilient. And of course, the dream is that one day they want to take over this place and that they want to be farmers and we can somehow build this operation to support everybody. I know that that's probably not reality. Never say never, but I want them to have the choice that if they do want to be farmers or they do want to be the next generation of Hidden Creek Farm, that they have the opportunity to do that and also the resources to do that. And that's not something that they're entitled to whatsoever, but it's something that's important to me, is important to my husband, that we are able to at least give them the option. As a farmer, there's so many highs and lows, and I think it's important that you share both to a certain degree. I always say I share the good, the bad, and the sometimes ugly. I don't share all of the ugly because I don't want people to necessarily have that vision or image like stuck in their head or think that it's like a common occurrence of something that happens. At the end of the day, I want people to feel connected with their food. I want them to feel strong in their choices that they're making surrounding their food. I want them to know what the food system, what a local food system truly looks like and the impacts that it has on farmers like us. I want people to know that if they have a question about a practice or something to do with the processing or the breed of animal or anything along those lines, anything to do with this entire business, I want them to know that as your farmer, you can come to me and you can ask your questions and I'm going to answer them the best way that I possibly can, because I want you to have the answers. I want you to have the resources to make decisions that are best for you and your family. I absolutely love that a customer can come to me and say, are your meats organic? And I can say, no, but why do you ask? And we can break it down and they can ask me the questions that they're concerned about or things that they're not sure of or that they've heard because that's what the media has told them over the years. And they can ask those questions directly to their farmer and we can answer them and make them feel like they're making a confident choice. A lot of times when people ask whether or not we're organic, what they really mean is, how are your animals being raised? Are they being raised humanely? Are the animals out on pasture? What are they being fed? Are you using Roundup on your pasture fields? Those are typically what people are looking for when they ask whether or not we are organic. And we'll get the question all the time, which I've tried to just remove it from vocabulary, but we get the question a lot, are you grass-fed? And yes, we are grass-fed. By definition, our cows are grass-fed. They are not 100% grass-fed. They are not. They receive grain. My father-in-law grinds our feed. I can tell you exactly what goes into it. I can tell you why they receive what they do and the different rations. Our cows, of course, our girlies don't receive any grain, but our steers do. And there is reasons behind that. And we hold true in our belief system behind that. And I strongly encourage people to just ask the questions, ask the why. And a lot of times they'll say, oh yeah, that makes absolute sense. Or yeah, that does make sense why you would do it that way. Or, oh, I had the interpretation that 100% grass-fed meant that they were out on pasture their entire life. And I can say, no, that's not what that means at all. What it means is that they were fed a grass-fed diet, and that can be done on a feedlot as well. So these are just the important conversations that are needing to be had in this space, in this community, and that requires farmers being open and honest about what is going on their farm. If I could give myself advice 6 years ago, I would tell myself, stop worrying about the outside noise. Don't worry about the outside noise. You're always going to have people who question you. You are always going to have people who criticize you. You are always going to receive pushback. And it's important. It builds you into the business owner, the farmer, the mother, the confident woman that you are now. As a business owner, you get caught up in the business itself. And Jesse and I have faced a lot of pushback for this over the years of, you guys, all you do is work and all you care about is the farm and you're always working and, whatever. That's fine. It's true. We are. You have to be when you're a business owner. But give yourself the space to step away. You are more than the farm. And I know that financially, sometimes it is just not happening. But when you can, do it. Take advantage of it. Take those babies, put them in the car and just drive. Go somewhere for the night. Go somewhere for 2 days. Sneak away when you can. Remind yourself that you are more than this farm, because it is really easy to get caught up in the hamster wheel that is this lifestyle. Ask for help. I used to have this mindset that if people weren't offering their help to me, then I wasn't going to ask. I wasn't going to waste my breath. If you wanted to do it, you would. But I think a lot of times people are just waiting to be asked for help, and don't be ashamed to do that. Another thing, don't be afraid to outsource. For the longest time, I don't know why I had it in my head. I was like, people are gonna judge me if I get a cleaning lady. I work from my house. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to keep a clean house and to keep these kids in clean clothes. Guess what? It is dang near impossible to do what we do as mothers and as working mothers and still get all of the things done. So if you can do something as simple as outsourcing someone to come and clean your house every 2 weeks, that way the dust bunnies aren't piling up in the corner, do it. It is worth every penny. Every penny. I was afraid to tell people that we had a cleaning lady because I didn't know what kind of pushback we would get for something like that. And I think people were just so happy to hear, like, oh, I'm so glad that is like one thing you don't do. And it is 100% true. I don't do it unless I have to. Of course, my kids are disgusting. I have to wipe down the toilet bowl. I have to run the vacuum cleaner every single day. But the deep clean, dusting, no way am I dusting, okay? Because I can have a cleaning service of 4 people, a team of 4 people, come in and clean my house spotless, top to bottom, in 2 hours flat and pay them to do that. Do you know how long that would take me? I would be cleaning in circles. I would be cleaning in circles and ripping my hair out because my kids would be dumping the toy bins right behind me as I picked them all up. Outsource where you can. And last but not least, for those things that you can't outsource, if you're not going to do it, who is? Buckle up, Buttercup. Like, put on your big girl pants and just get it done. There's going to be so many mornings where you wake up, especially in the winter, when it's cold and it's wet and it's icy, and you think to yourself, I do not want to do this. I do not want to go out and break up the cow's water bowl that is full of ice, and I do not want to go feed when it's snowing outside. Do it anyway. Do it anyway, because if you don't do it, who's going to do it? This is a choice that you made, and this is something that you have to follow through with it. On a 96-degree day, do you really think that I want to be outside 5 times checking waterers and making sure that those chickens are okay out in the field? Heck no. That is not how I'd like to spend my time. I would like to be at the beach with a nice land breeze coming through, in my bikini, drinking a cold beer, watching my kids play in the sand. But that's not the life that I chose, and that's not how this works. So get your butt up and just go do it. Don't complain. Nobody wants to hear it anyway. One of the best investments that I made when we first were starting our business and really like getting the ball rolling was I paid for an online course through Five Mary's Farms, and it was like basically a small business boot camp. And I forget how long it was, how many weeks. It was several months where we got lessons every single week breaking down different parts of a direct marketing farm business. We got calls with the owner of Five Mary's, with Mary, where we could ask questions. We had small teams that we would break out into these groups, and we would be able to talk about different pieces of our operations, what was working, what wasn't, and just brainstorm and bounce ideas off of each other. And it was so incredibly helpful that first like full-blown year of really focusing on building the business after I had left my corporate job. I can't remember exactly what it cost. I think it was around $2,000 maybe, and I don't even know what it costs today. I'm still a member of the Five Mary's community, but I remember at the time it seemed like this huge expense. Like it seemed like something that was so expensive, and I wasn't sure whether or not it was going to pay for itself. And oh my gosh, you did it. I gained so much knowledge from that group, but also so much confidence in the choices that I was making, the way that I was marketing, the way that I was selling product. Like, it was just so beneficial, and I cannot recommend it enough. Whether you're in our industry or you're in a similar industry or just in a different industry altogether, if you can invest in yourself through courses and through continuing your education, I cannot recommend it enough. It will pay off. I promise it will help you so much. And you don't know what you don't know. I'm someone who I like to learn hands-on. I just soak things up like a sponge. And for me, I just put so much time into that course to getting every dollar's worth out of it. And I believe that I did. It was so helpful. Like, I just cannot recommend investing in yourself enough. I'm actually currently looking at a different way to further my education, maybe a different course or some sort of clinic that I can go to, just because I think it keeps your mind fresh. I think it just keeps your wheels turning. And I think that's super important as a small business owner. I think that if you're able to just keep pushing forward in education, like whether it's social media, whether it's YouTube, right? Like there's always something to learn. There's always something to learn that's going to benefit your business. So just do it, right? Invest in you. Be strict with who you allow access to your life. We talked about boundaries. I really mean it. Like, you have to be really dedicated to protecting your own peace. If those text messages are driving you crazy and you don't have the mental capacity to answer them all because it's not serving you, then just don't. And I don't know, maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but I hold true. You have got to protect your peace. You will truly go insane if you don't. What's to come? What can you expect from Hidden Creek Farm over the next year? I'm not really sure. I would like to say that I have this grand plan of what that's going to look like, but as of right now, I just do not. Our biggest focus right now is just growing our beef operation, growing our cow-calf operation, and becoming more sustainable in our own individual unit here at Hidden Creek Farm. That's the plan. Over the winter, we also retrofitted this beautiful space here on the farm that is still decorated with my son's first birthday decorations. But this is another big plan, I guess you could say, maybe something that you'll see more of this year is just events and providing education to the community around us here at the farm, and utilizing this space to just bring people together and to teach them the importance of self-sufficiency and of knowing your farmer and just gaining life skills that not everyone is necessarily exposed to.
Have you ever heard that? This is why we can't have nice things. Of course you've heard it. It's Taylor Swift. Everyone in the world has heard it. This is why we can't have nice things, because I've been out here trying to record this and I set my phone down somewhere. Do we think I know where? Nope, no clue. No clue where I set it down. It's great. It's wonderful. Cow's probably snacking on it as we speak. Jesse always says that if my head was not attached to my body, that I would lose it, and he is 100% correct. I am very OCD, but I am also very ADHD, and it's really like not a very good combo. I didn't get diagnosed with either until I was an adult, and it's been a bit of a learning curve, I'm not going to lie, but I understand myself a whole lot better these days, knowing that there's a reason why I am the way that I am, but I'm constantly pinging my phone. Like, that's the best thing about an Apple Watch. It's why I will never get rid of it, because I lose it constantly. I lose my phone constantly. Jesse would be so disappointed in me right now. I'm actually very organized while also being incredibly chaotic, which I know is hard for some people to believe. Very organized in like day-to-day things. However, everything else is a bit of a mess, if I'm being honest. I thought it was really odd that my phone hadn't given me any notifications in a while. And yeah, it was really odd because it was out of range. I'm such a silly goose. I know it's sitting on a fence post somewhere. It's just a matter of figuring out which one. Ben is for sure going to be texting me, asking me to move chickens. And he's just gonna have to wait. He's just gonna have to wait because I don't know where it is. I need like a strap-on phone case. Get your mind out of the gutter. That's not where I was going with that. I need a strap-on phone case. You know, I took the time to put together this entire video to show how responsible I am, how great I've done at building a business over the last 6 years. And I can't even keep track of something simple like my phone. So maybe we just shouldn't take advice from me, okay? One of these days, my kids are gonna look back on their lives and be like, wow, my mom was so chaotic. She was so chaotic. I think it was mental illness. And I'm gonna say, yes, kids, yes, it was. This is what happens when I wear leggings without a phone pocket in them. I blame you, Lululemon. I blame you. Take some accountability, would you? I need some pockets in my pants. There she is. Oh boy, oh boy. All is good again. I found some little helpers to help me find my phone. They weren't much help, but you know, moral support. Right, Mitchell? Chaotic mom energy. Overstimulated moms club? That's me. I'm the president.
So whether you are a customer who shops with us frequently, someone who stumbled upon us on social media, or you're just new here in general, we are so thankful to have you. It has been an amazing 6 years of Hidden Creek Farm, and I could not have done this without the support that I have received from people that I know, people that I don't, family, friends. We love you so much, and we are just so grateful to be living out our daydream every single day. I hope that we're still around for year number 7 to give you another behind the scenes look at what we have built. Thanks for stopping by.